Well, it's time for the children's message, so I hope all the kids can come and gather around. I want to talk to you today about rules. Now, I've talked about rules before with you, and so maybe you'll remember some of this conversation, but what are rules, and what are some of the rules that you have in your life? Can you think about the rules, the things that your parents tell you, things that you should or shouldn't do around your house? Maybe you have a rule that says you need to take your shoes off when you come in from outside. Do you have that rule at your house? And maybe you have a rule that says you should make your bed every morning. Do you have a rule like that at your house? Or here's an important one, a rule of thing not to do. Don't hit your brother or your sister, right? Yeah, that's a rule. I'm sure if you have a brother or sister, your parents have told you. That is an important rule. How about, do you have a rule like don't drink milk right from the carton in the fridge or the juice from the container in the fridge, right? You need to pour it into a glass first before you drink, right? What are all these rules for? What's important about these rules? You know, there is a reason your parents have these rules for you. There's a reason behind that. They want you to take your shoes off and leave them by the door so that you don't track dirt in and make the house harder to keep clean. They want you to make your bed regularly so that your room stays tidy so that you can find things and it's just a more pleasant environment to be in. And they don't want you drinking milk right from the carton because that's how we spread germs and it can get other people sick. And so that's why we pour into our glasses. And we don't hit our brothers and sisters because who wants to be hit? That's not nice. It can hurt, and we don't want to hurt one another, and so that's why there's the rule, no hitting. And so there's always a reason behind the rule, and it's important for us to remind ourselves, to remember what those reasons are. Now, I've been holding on to this green binder this whole time because this green binder is full of all kinds of rules for the church. Did you know that? There's a whole bunch of rules that the church tries to follow, that here, Prince of Peace, that we try to follow. We call these rules, these are written down on these documents, and they're called big words. Part of these pages are called the Constitution. Another part's called the bylaws. You hear the word law, that's like a rule, right? And then there's also the continuing resolutions. Those are fun, big words to use to describe a bunch of rules. Now, today, this church has to follow one of the rules that we have put together in here. These rules have been decided by all the people who make up this church and who were a part of it for years and years before, that said these are the rules that we're going to all agree to on how we're going to be the church together and how we're going to do things together. And one of those rules is that we're going to get together and meet as a group twice a year, at least twice a year. We're going to have a semi-annual meeting in January and in June every year. So today, the last Sunday of January, we have to have a meeting. That's what the rules say. So today, we're going to meet on Zoom as a church because that's how we can do it safely. So we're following the rules. And we're going to make sure we're following some of the other rules that are in here. The rules about how that we have leaders that we elect to help us guide our church together. And we have rules about how we manage the money that it takes to keep this church doing all the important things that it does. And so we have rules about that. And that's what this big book is full of. But just like the rules that you have at home about how you live together as a family and how you take care of one another have a reason behind them. That reason is so that you can love each other. The rules that are in this book that talk about how we run this church and our constitution and our bylaws and our continuing resolutions, they all have an important reason too. And that's so we can be the church that God has called us to be, so that we can be people who love one another, who love God and who love God's world. So these rules help us. Now, sometimes they're not the easiest to keep track of, and that's why we keep them written down. And sometimes we kind of can forget what each of the specific rules are. But as long as we remember the reason, then mostly we do okay. As long as we remember that the rules are to help us love one another, then we're going to be just fine. Thank you for coming and letting me talk to you about rules today and how rules help us in our life, at home, and in our life at the church. Thank you.